archaeological discovery beneath the permafrost has left scientists utterly shocked. Hello, greetings to all the folks around, dear friends and viewers near and far. Welcome to the Enigmatic Echoes. It's me again, the open-minded and inquisitive Anna, and today, I'll take you on a journey through imagination. No need for plane tickets, no need for fur coats. Yet you can still set foot in one of the world's most heat-shattering, cold, and mysterious places. Yes, it's none other than the Arctic. When hearing about the Arctic, many immediately think of snow-covered landscapes, massive polar bears, and sunny narwhal. But perhaps you didn't know, besides the bone-chilling cold, this place also sends shivers down your spine. Why? Because beneath that ancient ice layer could be hiding an ancient civilization that rivaled even Atlantis. I'm telling the truth, not exaggerating at all, you know? Many strange ancient documents say that people once lived here, building proper fortresses. A secret alien base, which is even more terrifying. But there's also a theory that the Nazis came here during World War II to build a hidden base. Wait, why is such a remote, cold place so buzzing? Many of you are thinking that, right? So what's really under that ice? Is this place hiding secrets humanity isn't ready to know, or just entertaining rumors? Let's peel back each layer of ice and find the answer to that question right now. Two perfectly preserved mummies in ice. Astonishing clues from a forgotten civilization. If you think the Arctic is all ice, wind, and a few polar bears lost in the fog, drop that thought right now. Video, It's 100% real and so puzzling archaeologists to this day. It's the story of two perfectly preserved mummies found in the Arctic snow. Here's how it started. In 2017, at an archaeological site in Siberian, the Arctic capital of Russia. This city lies right by the Kara Sea in the far north, where the cold is beyond discussion. Tea like the light chill of Sapa, Here, during archaeological digs, experts accidentally discovered two ancient mummies. One was an adult, the other a child, and not just dry skeletons like in movies. These two mummies were eerily intact, wrapped carefully in thick cloth, fur, and bark, the ultimate ancient warmth combo. And thanks to the year-round freezing temperatures, these bodies were naturally mummified for hundreds of years. Notably, the adult mummy was also encased in a copper shell. This detail immediately startled experts, as it shows this civilization knew how to craft and use metal to preserve bodies. They weren't just primitive nomads. This copper was tightly wound around a mummy to prevent bacterial invasion. Moreover, they found liquid extracted from birch bark, acting almost like modern embalming fluid, with excellent anti-decay properties. Hearing this, many of you might be doubting me, but wait, there's more intrigue ahead. You know, according to archaeologists, the cocoon wrapping the adult mummy is about 170 centimeters long. Inferring from that, the person inside was around 165 centimeters tall, fully grown and in fairly good condition. What about the small mummy? It was a baby about 6 months old, lying next to the adult in a very solemn posture. As if the two were blood relatives or part of a special burial ritual. Every detail, from the wrapping cloth, materials, copper layer, to burial location, shows this wasn't an ordinary burial, but a ritual rich in the cultural and spiritual essence of an ancient Siberian civilization. A civilization that still holds many unsolved mysteries to this day. And you know, the Arctic isn't an easy place to dig. Each discovery is like opening another page of history frozen since ancient times. And these two mummies could be the key piece to unraveling a civilization that existed right where we thought only ice prevailed. Currently, scientists are still conducting thorough research, from DNA tests, forensics, to analyzing preservatives. They hope the secrets within these two bodies will unveil a new chapter in human history, where the Arctic is no longer a dead land but a treasure trove hiding humanity's ancient memories. So, what do you think? Are these just random mummies or a message from a lost civilization? Please leave your comments below in the comment section. The ghost ship that cannibalized, the chilling mystery behind a fateful journey in the Arctic. Before we begin the story, try to imagine yourself lost in a vast snowy wilderness. Not a single tree in sight, food completely gone, the cold cutting through skin and flesh, surrounded only by white and more than a dozen friends gradually exhausting. So to survive, many of you might think I'm telling another horror movie story, making this up, but not at all. This story that seems like it can only exist in horror movies actually happened, and not just to one person. An entire crew of sailors fell into that horrific tragedy aboard the HMS Erebus. Here's what happened. In 1846, Captain John Franklin and his expedition of 129 people set out to conquer the Northwest Passage, the sea route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Arctic. A grandly promoted journey, meticulously prepared, carrying plenty of canned food and the most advanced technology at that time, but then suddenly disappeared without a trace. Nearly 170 years later, only in 2014, people found the wreck of HMS Erebus under the ice near King William Island, 1,200 nautical miles northwest of Toronto. And from then on, a series of terrifying mysteries began to surface. Since 1859, human skeletons started appearing on the shores of King William Island. The first 2 skeletons were found in a sitting position, as if waiting for rescue or waiting to die. 10 years later, another skeleton was discovered. Then in 1879, 6 more withered white skeletons were found scattered about, particularly with no graves, no tombstones. No traces except deep-cut marks on wrists and thigh bones that made people immediately think of cannibalism scenes from horror movies. Hearing this far, you must feel chills, right? But there's more. Canadian researchers, after thorough analysis, confirmed these were indeed crew members of the Erebus. They were trapped in ice for 2 years, food gradually depleted. Some died from cold, others from disease. Some suffered from lead poisoning from eating too much canned food, as the technology back then was quite primitive, so lead wasn't completely removed from cans. The remaining people were cold, hungry, desperate, with no other choice but to eat the flesh of their dead comrades to survive. Evidence includes cut marks on bones exactly like those from butchering for meat, especially soft parts like forearms and thighs where the most muscle is. At this point, there's no doubt they had fallen into extreme survival mode, where morality and instinct battled each other hour by hour. Some skeletons even had fresh rodent tooth marks. But notably, Captain Franklin's body was never found. He disappeared as if he never existed. Some believe he was buried on shore. Others think he remained in the ship. Or perhaps he was the first to be consumed in the desperate hunger of the hundreds in that expedition. That's true, it. Have you ever heard of a village with over 1,200 people vanishing overnight without leaving any trace? If not, sit back here and travel back in time with me to 1930, to the remote village of Anjikuni, in Canada's freezing tundra region. At that time, in the bitter winter, an Eskimo community was living peacefully with tents, hunting rifles, dried fish, sled dogs, and meals with rising smoke. Suddenly, everything disappeared, completely gone as if it ever existed. A search team was later dispatched, expecting to find at least some footprints, a cry for help message, or even just a stray dog. But no, absolutely nothing. When entering the huts, they saw clothes still neatly hung, pots still steaming but now frozen solid. Hunting rifles arranged neatly by the door. The feeling was very strange, as if the villagers had just left minutes before, but left forever. And you know, Eskimos living in the Arctic leaving behind both hunting rifles and fur coats is like surrendering themselves to the cold. So, this matter became increasingly puzzling. More peculiarly, they also discovered some graves had been dug up in a strange manner, unclear whether by humans or something else. The cold in this region makes the ground hard as rock, so who could dig up a series of graves in the middle of winter? That's another detail that truly makes one. That is, at the same time the village disappeared, radar at Washington International Airport detected signals of glowing spots floating in the northern sky. The signals appeared, disappeared, then reappeared, as if tracking something. Thus, numerous theories began to emerge, with the most prominent being mass abduction by aliens. Sounds like a Hollywood movie, but the details are too coincidental. No escape traces, no bodies. No fragments or bloodshed whatsoever, nor any clues suggesting an invasion or natural disaster occurred. Some even speculated wildly that the Anjikuni villagers might have stepped through a space portal, accidentally entering a parallel world, or were swept up by a natural phenomenon that current science can't even begin to explain. Some tough-minded people believe this is the result of some top-secret experiment where the victims didn't have time to sign consent forms. There are also opposing opinions suggesting this story might just be a rumor that has been exaggerated over time. But the problem is, if it was fabricated, who created the radar details, the dug-up grave, the intact gun, and 1,200 people disappearing without footprints? Nearly a century has passed, and the case remains unsolved. No new evidence has been found. No survivors have returned, and no group has claimed responsibility. So ultimately, is this a strange migration, a mysterious disaster, or a fleeting visit by aliens? If it were you, which hypothesis would you believe? As for me, I give up. I can't guess at all. As you know, the world has too many mysteries, right? 20,000-year-old woolly rhino mummy. Did you know? In the frigid Arctic land, archaeologists made an extremely significant discovery, making exploration enthusiasts eagerly anticipate. It's the mummy of a woolly rhino, not the rhino of today, but an ancient relative that went extinct over 20,000 years ago. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? The story began in August 2020, when scientists in Russia dug through the permafrost in Yakutsk, where temperatures can be bone-chillingly cold, to pull out the most intact young woolly rhino mummy ever found. What amazed them was that this rhino mummy still retained all its teeth, intestines, fat, and tissues, despite lying in the ice for tens of thousands of years. Imagine, after all those years, its body remains fresh, as if it had just hibernated. Even more special, this rhino was only about 3 to 4 years old when it left the game, meaning it was in its growth stage. Very young, and externally, it showed no signs of illness or injury, perfectly healthy. It looked as if death came suddenly, leaving archaeologists puzzled for months trying to deduce. But incredibly, they just managed to speculate. It's very likely this little rhino died from drowning. You might think this cause sounds absurd, right? If you think so, well, you're mistaken, because in summer, Arctic temperatures rise. The woolly rhinos, accustomed to living in the cold, become uncomfortable and playful, so they rush into rivers to cool off, like trying to lower their body heat. But unfortunately, this young rhino got swept away by a current, couldn't swim in time, and that ended his life story. This story not only sparks curiosity about the excellent preservation of the mummy due to natural events, but also makes me reflect on the harshness and mystery of nature. Think about it, just wanting to cool off a bit led to a creature living thousands of years ago drowning. Sounds somewhat humorous but also tragic, doesn't it? Hyperborea, the forgotten paradise under the Arctic ice. Now, hearing the name Hyperborea, does anyone here think it's the name of a game company or a sci-fi movie? At first, I thought it was a movie series, but after researching, I found out it's the name of a legendary land. An ancient paradise that the ancient Greeks believed truly existed on Earth. Of course, not in a familiar place close to us, but far up in the north, where the sun shines 24/7, snow falls heavily, and cold winds blow so hard they could sweep away memories. Legend says that Hyperborea was not only a beautiful land, but also a place where gods once descended to live with humans. Especially the god Apollo. He wasn't just incredibly handsome, but also so generous that every 19 years, he'd drive his flying chariot to visit the Hyperboreans, like checking in with his subjects. And the people here weren't ordinary folks. They were all immortal, living for thousands of years, not knowing illness. No wars, no drama, just music, art, and peace. Many of you probably had your jaws drop and say, wow, it sounds like paradise, so why has it? Well, that's exactly the intriguing part. According to ancient texts, Hyperborea lies beyond the land of Thrace, meaning in the far. Some say it's the Arctic region, others guess Siberia. And there's even a hypothesis that Hyperborea is the Garden of Eden from the Bible. But the most fascinating part is the question of how to live in places where it's cold and snow-covered all year round. But legend tells that in Hyperborea, the sun never sets, only taking one day off a year, otherwise it's always shining, meaning the day lasts all 365 days. Of course, that's just the allure. The most interesting part isn't just about the location or weather, but that the civilization here was extremely advanced, my friends. They had high technology, lived in a democratic society, and were governed by 3 priests of the god Apollo. Just hearing about it makes it sound awesome. Many believe that if Atlantis was a powerful maritime empire, then Hyperborea was its formidable rival on land. There are even legends that say the Atlanteans once intended to cause trouble with Hyperborea. But as soon as they set foot on its territory and saw how mighty its inhabitants were, they turned back silently, not bothering to fight. Hearing that just feels so intense. But is Hyperborea real? Or is it just a beautiful dream from thousands of years ago? Ancient documents by historian Herodotus or the poem Eurystheia by Aristeas all record information related to this land. Even in Northeast Asia, people have whispered about a miraculous place like Hyperborea. But unfortunately, no one has ever laid hands on it. Perhaps, if it truly exists, Hyperborea is hiding beneath the thick ice of the Arctic, waiting for the day when humanity is wise and respectful enough of nature to once again open the door to that ancient land. Who knows, on a fine day, when technology is advanced enough and the ice melts, Hyperborea might reappear. And the whole world would be shocked by a civilization once buried by time. For now, we just have to let our imaginations wander with this story. So what about you? Do you believe Hyperborea is real? Or is it all just legends passed down over thousands of years? If you have any hypotheses, speculations, or interesting information about this land, don't hesitate to drop it in the comments. Who knows, it might open up a new dimension for this exploration. Wouldn't that be absolutely fantastic? A 26,000-year-old woolly mammoth fossil. If you think hunting mammoths is something only seen in survival games or historical dramas, you're underestimating our ancestors. Because not long ago, just about 4 years, specifically in October 2021, Russian explorers dug them up. Or more accurately, they unearthed an incredibly intact woolly mammoth skeleton on Kotelny Island. A place where just hearing the name sends a chill down your spine. This island is located 990 kilometers from the North Pole, meaning you could walk around and freeze even your emotions. What's even more shocking is that this skeleton had been lying quietly under the permafrost for 26,000 years. To put it plainly, if this skeleton could talk, it might even tell stories from when humans were still struggling to invent fire. But the story doesn't stop at just a giant skeleton. When archaeologists began carefully piecing the bones together, they noticed something strange. On almost the entire skeleton, there were cut marks, incisions, clearly traces of an organized butchering. These sharp cuts were made with stone or bone tools. And this wasn't the work of polar bears or snow lions, but of Stone Age humans. To visualize it easily, just imagine this. A group of nomadic hunters, in weather so cold that their breath turns to snow, so coordinating perfectly to take down a woolly mammoth as big as a container truck. That just shows our ancestors weren't pushovers. Even without technology or the internet, their survival skills were max level. Although no weapons like the stone or bone tools used to butcher the mammoth were found, the research team discovered a whole stash of ivory fragments, showing that ancient people not only ate the mammoth but also recycled extremely creatively. Among the artifacts, there was a small shovel, probably for scooping ivory, and an item that looks like a rubber spatula, though no one knows what it was used for. All we know is that the head of the research team, Alexander Kandybar, who is not only an archaeologist but also a close friend of the ice, confirmed. This is vivid evidence that humans once survived and even hunted in the harshest places on the planet. Until now, many theories suggested that prehistoric humans mainly hunted small animals like rabbits, deer, or fish, and no one dared to touch a mammoth standing 3 meters tall and weighing tons. But clearly, this discovery has debunked that theory. It turns out humans back then knew how to plan, divide tasks, use tools, and were clever enough to take down one of the most formidable creatures of prehistory. This story not only tells us what our ancestors ate and where they lived, but also reveals a lifestyle full of courage and creativity in the planet's harshest environment. In the bone-chilling cold of Siberia, they didn't just sit around facing things but persevered in hunting, crafting, and surviving. If we were in their shoes, many of us would probably just turn on the heater and order food delivery to the camp. So, if you're surprised by this discovery, or if you have fun guesses about the purpose of that mysterious ivory spatula, remember to leave a comment below. Who knows, among you might be a potential archaeologist hiding behind the screen, no joke. What do you think if, on a fine day while leisurely strolling with reindeer on Bane Island, a bear suddenly pops out? Not a teddy bear, nor the familiar polar bear, but a perfectly preserved giant cave bear lying still under millennia-old ice. As if waiting for the day to return. Sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But the truth is exactly like that. On a freezing day on Bolshoi Lyakhovsky Island, the icy land of Siberia, a group of reindeer herders accidentally discovered the intact mummy of a giant cave bear, Ursus speleus. What's special is that the bear not only has its skeleton intact but also its soft tissues, organs, and even its nose are almost perfectly preserved. After about 15,000 years under the permafrost. This is not normal because, until now, science has only collected a few skulls and bone fragments of this bear species. But this time, we have a complete collection from skin to flesh. Scientists hearing this news must be overjoyed. Even Dr. Leah Grigorieva from Northeastern Federal University, NEFU, said that this discovery is not only an archaeological treasure, but also opens up the opportunity to study the original DNA of the giant cave bear, something we only dreamed of before. Now, that dream has come true. And that dream is lying in the NEFU Yakutsk laboratory, where just opening a window can let snow drift into your sleep. Moreover, almost simultaneously with the discovery of the adult bear, a cub's carcass was also found in Yakutia, a place famous for cold so extreme it freezes even Wi-Fi waves. And notably, both bear carcasses are astonishingly well preserved. They say, the mother bear lies on the island, the cub on the mainland, yet both are carefully preserved by nature like this, truly something mysterious. As permafrost due to climate change sounds worrying, but it inadvertently reveals prehistoric gifts we ice melts, bears appear, bringing along a whole new treasure trove of knowledge waiting to be explored. If studying DNA from mammoth carcasses once stirred the world with dreams of revival, could the giant cave bear become the star in the next installment of a frozen version of Jurassic Park? Hearing this, many of you must be wondering, do we plan to revive it? Will we put it in a park? The answer is not impossible. Analyzing soft tissues, extracting DNA, genetic transplantation, all are within the capabilities, but whether we should do it depends on the opinions of ethicists and certainly shouldn't be tried raising it in an apartment. Currently, the whole world is turning its attention to Yakutsk, the research center where the ice bears await their secrets to be uncovered. Besides NEFU, international scientists from the US, Japan, and Europe will also join the analysis, everyone wanting to touch this creature that once dominated the icy Rocky Mountains. After all, a bear emerging from the ground after 15,000 years is not just a significant event by the fireside, but also an opportunity for humanity to look back at evolutionary history, survival, and how Earth was once so cold it preserved bears like frozen meat in a fridge. Interesting, isn't it? You see, the Arctic truly holds many mysteries that humans haven't fully explored. Do you believe there's the presence of another world beyond Earth here? Could civilizations that once existed here still hide secrets that ancient people have always concealed? Could life have once existed in the Arctic? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to watch the entire video. If you found this video good and interesting, don't forget to drop a like for enigmatic echoes and subscribe so you don't. For now, goodbye and see you again.
Subscribe to the Gi and Migo channel so you don't miss exciting videos.